He was a billionaire CEO who thought love was just another game. She was the innocent employee he bet he could seduce in 1 month. But when the truth came out, it destroyed them both in ways no one saw coming. What she did next will leave you questioning everything you believe about love and forgiveness. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what she did next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my channel for more interesting stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Lucas Stone was known across New York as a man who could have anything and anyone he wanted. He was only 32, but he had built Stone Tech into a billion-dollar company. People called him brilliant, powerful, fearless. But the truth was, most people whispered something else behind his back. Lucas Stone was a heartless flirt. Everyone in the company had heard stories. Women he'd taken on fancy dates, only to toss them aside the next week. Assistants who left crying after he promised them the world and then pretended he'd never said a word. He never cared about anyone. Not really. It was all just a game to him. And Lucas liked it that way. One Friday evening, he sat on the rooftop bar of his penthouse tower, a place reserved for his most exclusive parties. Soft music played under the stars, and glasses clinked with expensive whiskey. Across the table sat Ethan Brooks, his old college friend. Ethan had been with him on countless nights like this, nights when Lucas bragged about the women who had fallen for him. "So, Stone," Ethan said, swirling his drink, "tell me, how many hearts have you broken this month?" Lucas smirked, leaning back in his chair. His black suit was perfect, not a hair out of place. "Just 3, he said casually. "One was married. She thought I didn't know." Ethan shook his head with a laugh. "You're a real piece of work." Lucas lifted an eyebrow. "Don't look so shocked. You know exactly who I am." "Yes," Ethan said, a sly smile spreading across his face. "And that's why I finally have a bet you can't win." Lucas tilted his glass toward him. "Try me. You know that sweet little assistant you just hired? Emma Blake." Lucas's jaw tightened slightly, though he tried to hide it. He knew Emma. Everyone did. She was the quiet girl with the soft brown eyes and the shy smile. She dressed in simple clothes and always looked nervous when he passed her desk. "She's different," Lucas said carefully. Ethan laughed. "Exactly. That's why I bet you can't have her. Not just a date. You can't get her to sleep with you." Lucas looked out over the city, lights twinkling like fireflies. He knew it was wrong, even cruel, to even think about it. But something dark and stubborn rose in his chest. No one told Lucas Stone there was something he couldn't do. "I give you 1 month," Ethan pressed, his eyes gleaming. "If you fail, you admit you're losing your touch." Lucas turned back to him, his face calm. "And if I succeed?" Ethan grinned. "Then I'll never question your legend again." For a moment, Lucas hesitated. In his mind, he pictured Emma's kind eyes, the way she blushed when she dropped her papers, and he helped her pick them up. She was nothing like the other women he'd played games with. She was pure, trusting, and that made the bet feel even more dangerous. But then he remembered who he was. Lucas Stone, the man no woman could resist. He lifted his glass slowly. "Deal." They clinked their drinks together. The sound was sharp and final, like a door closing. As Ethan left with a smug smile, Lucas stayed behind, alone in the dark. He looked down at the street, watching the traffic crawl by. For the first time, he felt a strange twist of guilt. But he shoved it down, telling himself it was just another bet. Another story he would one day tell with a smirk. He had no idea that this time, the game would change him forever. The next morning, Lucas arrived at the office earlier than usual. The halls were quiet, the air still fresh. He passed by Emma's desk and stopped, watching her for a moment. She was wearing a pale pink blouse and a navy skirt. Her hair was pulled into a neat ponytail, and she was carefully arranging papers into a folder. She looked so focused that she didn't notice him standing there. "Good morning, Emma," he said finally, his voice smooth and steady. She jumped a little, pressing a hand to her chest. "Oh, good morning, Mr. Stone. I didn't see you. He almost smiled. It's Lucas. Her cheeks turned pink. Yes, Lucas. He liked the way his name sounded in her soft voice. For a moment, he forgot about Ethan, about the bet. He just looked at her and wondered why she seemed so different from everyone else. Can I help you with something? She asked politely. Yes, he said, clearing his throat. I'd like you to have lunch with me today. At the Mandarin Hotel. Emma blinked in surprise. Lunch? With you? Lucas nodded. It's just lunch. I'd like to know my staff better. She hesitated. She had never been invited to lunch by her boss before. Everyone warned her that Lucas Stone was trouble. But part of her heart wanted to say yes, just to see if he was different when he wasn't wearing that cold mask. All right, she said softly. I can do that. He smiled, and she felt her stomach flutter. At noon, Lucas sent a sleek black car to pick her up. She sat in the back seat, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. When she arrived at the hotel restaurant, she spotted him waiting by a window table, looking like he belonged in a magazine. He stood when she walked over, pulling out her chair. Thank you for coming, he said. Emma looked down, feeling her face heat up. You didn't really give me much choice, she said honestly. He chuckled. I suppose that's true. A waiter brought them sparkling water and menus. Lucas ordered without even looking. Emma peeked at the menu, shocked at how expensive everything was. You don't have to be nervous, he said gently, noticing her stiff posture. I'm just not used to this, she admitted. Fancy restaurants. Being alone with someone like you. Someone like me? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Important, she whispered. Powerful. Lucas felt something in his chest pinch. He realized that was how everyone saw him, untouchable. Cold. A man without feelings. Maybe I'm just a man, he said after a moment. Maybe you shouldn't believe everything you hear. Emma lifted her eyes to his. Maybe. They talked while they ate. Lucas asked about her family, her dreams, the books she liked to read. She told him about her father, who had died when she was 12, and how her mother worked 2 jobs to pay for her college. She spoke with such honesty, it made Lucas feel almost ashamed of himself. He was used to women who only wanted his money or his name. Emma seemed to want nothing from him but kindness. When lunch was over, he walked her to the car. Thank you, she said softly. This was nice. He watched her climb inside, feeling something he hadn't expected, guilt. This wasn't just another woman he could charm and forget. As the car pulled away, Lucas stood on the curb, hands in his pockets, staring after her. For the first time, he wondered if he was about to lose something far more important than a bet. When Emma got home that evening, she couldn't stop thinking about lunch. She set her purse on the table and sat on the edge of her bed, her heart still fluttering. He had been kind, careful, almost gentle. She tried to remind herself of the stories, that Lucas Stone was a flirt who never meant his sweet words. But something about the way he'd listened to her felt real. No, she scolded herself. You can't trust him. But her mind replayed his voice over and over. Maybe you shouldn't believe everything you hear. The next morning, she arrived early to the office. She hoped she could slip to her desk unnoticed, but when she stepped out of the elevator, Lucas was already there. He stood by her desk, holding 2 cups of coffee. Morning, he said, offering one to her. She stared at it, startled. For me? He nodded. You said yesterday you like vanilla lattes. Emma hesitated before taking the cup. Thank you. Lucas watched her closely. She looked even more beautiful in the soft morning light. Her hair glowed like honey. Her eyes were shy, but curious. He cleared his throat. I have a meeting this afternoon. But afterward, I was wondering if you'd help me go over some documents in my office. Of course, Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. That's my job. But her heart was beating so fast, she was sure he could hear it. Later that day, as the sun sank low and the office grew quiet, Emma stepped into Lucas's private office. Stacks of folders sat neatly on his massive desk. Lucas was standing by the window, staring out at the skyline. You wanted to see me? She asked, trying to sound calm. He turned around slowly. For a moment, he didn't say anything. just looked at her like he was searching for something in her face. "Yes," he said finally. "Come sit." She took the chair across from him and opened the first folder. But she could feel his eyes on her. "Emma," he began softly, "I hope you don't feel uncomfortable spending time with me." She swallowed. I'm not sure." "I know my reputation," he said, his voice low. "I know what people say about me. But you should know I've never met anyone like you." Emma's hands trembled. She set down her pen and looked up. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why are you paying so much attention to me?" Lucas didn't answer right away, because he wasn't sure himself anymore. What had started as a bet felt different now. Dangerous.
Real.
"Because when I'm with you," he said slowly, "I don't feel like that person everyone talks about." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if I can believe you." "I understand," he said. "I don't expect you to trust me. But I can't stay away." Silence fell between them, heavy and warm. Lucas reached across the desk and took her hand. His fingers were gentle, nothing like the confident man she'd always seen. Her breath caught. She knew she should pull away, that she should run. But she didn't. When Emma finally stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Good night, Lucas," she said, her voice shaking. "Good night, Emma," he replied. After she was gone, Lucas leaned back in his chair, covering his face with his hands. He didn't know when the bet had stopped feeling like a game. But he knew now, if he lost her, it wouldn't be about losing to Ethan. It would be about losing the only person who had ever looked at him like he could be more than a heartless flirt. And for the first time in his life, that thought terrified him. The next morning, Lucas sat alone in his office. He had barely slept. He kept seeing Emma's face when she asked why he was paying attention to her. He wished he had an answer that didn't make him feel ashamed. For hours, he sat at his desk, staring at the phone. He knew he had to end the bet with Ethan. He had to tell Emma the truth. But every time he picked up the phone, fear gripped him. What if she never speaks to me again? Finally, he decided to wait until the end of the week. He would talk to Ethan first, and then tell Emma everything in person. He wanted her to hear it from him, not from anyone else. But Lucas didn't know he was already too late. That afternoon, Emma was organizing files when she felt someone watching her. She turned and saw Ethan Brooks leaning against the wall, smiling like he knew a secret. "Hello, Emma," Ethan said, his voice smooth. "Mind if I talk to you?" Emma frowned. She didn't know him well, only that he was one of Lucas's oldest friends. "Is something wrong?" Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I thought you should know the truth about your little romance with Lucas." Her stomach twisted. "I don't know what you mean." He laughed softly. "You think he cares about you? That man doesn't care about anyone. You're just a bet, sweetheart." Emma's mouth went dry. "A bet." "That's right," Ethan said, his eyes cold. "He bet me he could get you into his bed within a month. That's why he's been so interested in you." Her hands shook.
No.
"You're lying." Ethan shrugged. "Ask him yourself. But don't say I didn't warn you." He walked away, leaving Emma standing there, her heart breaking. She tried to work, but she couldn't focus. Her mind raced with memories. Lucas bringing her coffee, listening to her stories, touching her hand so gently. Was it all a lie? When the clock struck 5, she couldn't wait any longer. She marched to Lucas's office, her legs trembling. She didn't even knock. She threw open the door. Lucas looked up, startled. "Emma?" Her eyes were wide with hurt. "Is it true?" she whispered. He stood up slowly. "Is what true?" "That you made a bet to take my virginity," she said, her voice breaking. Silence fell so heavy she thought it might crush her. Lucas's face turned pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "That's all I need to know," Emma said, her voice hollow. "No," he finally gasped, stepping around the desk. "Emma, please listen." "Don't," she said, backing away. Tears ran down her cheeks. "I thought you were different." He reached for her, desperate. "It started as a bet, but it isn't anymore. I swear to you, I care about you more than I've ever cared about anyone." Her shoulders shook with sobs. "You hurt me more than anyone ever has." She turned and ran from the office. Lucas sank to his knees. He pressed his hands to his face, feeling tears burn his eyes. He had never cried over a woman before. He had never cared enough to cry over anyone. But as he knelt there, he knew he had destroyed the only good thing he'd ever found. And this time, there was no game he could play to win her back. Lucas stayed on the floor for a long time, unable to move. His heart felt heavy, as if something inside him had broken for good. When he finally stood, he knew he couldn't pretend anymore. He had to fix what he had ruined, even if Emma never forgave him. The next morning, Lucas canceled all his meetings. His staff had never seen him look so serious or so tired. He walked into Ethan's office without knocking. Ethan looked up, surprised. "Lucas." "You told her," Lucas said quietly. Ethan smirked. "She deserved to know." Lucas stepped closer. His voice was low but dangerous. "Stay away from her. If you come near Emma again, you and I are done. Forever." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Don't act like you're suddenly the good guy." "I'm not," Lucas said. "But I'm going to try to be." He turned and left, not caring what Ethan thought anymore. That afternoon, Lucas went to the women's shelter downtown. He had donated money to them before, but he'd never actually stepped inside. Now, he asked the director if there was any way he could help in person. For the next few weeks, he spent his mornings serving meals and carrying boxes of donations. He spoke to women who had been hurt and abandoned. He listened to their stories, and every time, he thought of Emma. At night, he went back to his penthouse and wrote letters he never sent. He filled page after page, trying to put into words what she meant to him. "Emma, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that meeting you was the first time I ever wanted to be better." He left flowers at her apartment door every Friday, never with a name, but she knew they were from him. Emma spent those weeks trying to heal. Some nights, she lay awake, clutching a pillow, wondering how she could have been so foolish. But she also couldn't forget the way Lucas had looked when she accused him, the shame, the regret. And every Friday when she found the flowers, she felt her heart ache a little more. One rainy afternoon, Emma was walking home with an umbrella when she saw Lucas across the street. He was standing in front of the shelter, soaked through. She almost kept walking, but something made her stop. She crossed the street slowly, her heart beating fast. He turned and saw her. His eyes widened with surprise and hope. "Emma," he said, his voice hoarse. "I didn't expect." "I know you've been coming here," she said, her voice trembling. He swallowed. "I had to do something good with my life, even if you never see it." She looked at him, rain dripping from her hair. "Why are you really here?" "Because you were right," he said quietly. "I was cold and empty, and I can't be that man anymore. Even if you never forgive me, I needed to become someone who deserves a chance at love." Emma felt tears mix with the rain on her cheeks. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, "for everything." She closed her eyes. She could feel that he meant it, that he was telling the truth. When she opened her eyes again, she took a slow breath. "I don't know if I can trust you yet," she said honestly. "I understand," Lucas said, "but I'll wait as long as it takes." For a long moment, they stood there in the rain, saying nothing. And for the first time since her heart had broken, Emma felt something new, a tiny spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this story wasn't over yet. Emma took a slow step back, then turned and walked away. She didn't look back, but she felt his eyes following her all the way down the street. Over the next weeks, Emma tried to focus on her work at the publishing house. But every day, she thought about Lucas, about how he had stood in the rain waiting for her, about the letters she found in her mailbox with no name but full of regret and hope. He never pressured her. He never asked to see her. But she heard from people at the shelter that he came every morning at sunrise, before the city was awake, just to help. One morning, Emma finally opened one of his letters. The paper was wrinkled, the ink smudged. "Emma, I used to think love was a game. You showed me it was everything. I'm sorry for hurting you. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be a man who deserves you." Tears blurred the words. She pressed the letter to her chest and cried. A week later, she decided she needed to see him. Not to rush into anything, but because her heart would never rest until she heard the words face to face. She went to the shelter early in the morning. The air was cool and the sky was still pink. She found Lucas carrying boxes of canned food inside. His hair was messy, and his shirt was damp with sweat, but when he turned and saw her, his face lit up like he hadn't smiled in years. "Emma," he breathed. She stood there for a moment, just looking at him. All the memories, the lies, the pain, the kindness, swirled inside her. "I read your letters," she said softly. Lucas swallowed. "I meant every word." "I know," she whispered. He set the box down and took a step closer. "I don't expect you to forget what I did, but I will spend the rest of my life proving that I'm not that man anymore." Tears filled her eyes. "You already have." Lucas blinked in surprise. "What?" "You changed," Emma said, her voice breaking. "Not for me, but for yourself. And that's how I know it's real." He reached for her hand, but this time, she didn't pull away. "I still love you," she whispered. "I never stopped." Lucas closed his eyes as relief and love poured through him. "Emma, I love you too. More than anything." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Then let's try again. But this time no lies. No games." "Never again," he promised. 1 year later, they stood together in the little garden behind the women's shelter. Family and friends gathered around as Emma walked down a simple aisle lined with white flowers. Lucas waited at the end, wearing a gray suit, his eyes filled with tears. When she reached him, he took her hands and whispered, "Thank you for giving me a second chance." Emma smiled, her heart full. "Thank you for becoming the man I always believed you could be." Years later, when their daughter was old enough to understand, Emma told her the story, not of a bet, but of a love so strong it broke a cold heart and turned it warm. And every time Lucas kissed her goodnight, Emma knew she had made the right choice. Because sometimes, forgiveness was the bravest thing a heart could do. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, kindly subscribe to my channel for more interesting stories, like, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. You can also comment what you feel about the story under the comment section. Thanks for watching.